Good afternoon, students.
Good afternoon, sir.
Uh, okay, so welcome back to the class now. I think it is the last class for your entire MA program. Okay, so in the last class we discussed about these peasant movements between 1920 and 47. As a part of tribal peasant movements, along with the national movement, we discussed up to 1930s. Okay, so number of movements we discussed from the Champaran, Satyagraha, and Keda, and Mopila rebellion, and also Bardoli Satyagraha, and other movements like the Eka movement, and also Awadh Kisan Sabha movement, and many movements we discussed in the first class. So the remaining movements to be discussed, which started in the 1930s and 1940s. Among them, you are well known that movements also like Tebaga movement in the West Bengal, and Telangana movement in the southern part of India. And apart from this, many movements which taken place are under the platform of this All India Kisan Sabha, which started in 1934 or 35. Okay. So before going to this, first of all, in this session, I have to give only about the Tebaga and Telangana movement. And before that, I will give you what are the certain conditions which rise of those movements during the 1930s and 40s. Okay. So as a part of national movement, many things happened. In 1925, you are aware that the communist movement, Communist Party of India has started, and I think 1920 or 25. Okay, so as a revolutionary peasantry, which peasantry or peasant struggles has started with the starting of this Communist Party, and as a part of Indian National Congress, the Socialist Party is another one which strongly supported the grievances and problems of Indian peasants. Okay, so with the help of this Communist Party of India and Socialist wing of this Indian National Congress, which strongly supported these peasant movements in the 1930s and 40s. On the other side, the All India Kisan Sabha, which is controlling over nearly the 500 and plus branches in all over Indian territories, and many Kisan Sabhas which comes under this All India Kisan Sabha, and as a platform, All India Kisan Sabha, which also started such peasant movements in the Indian territories in the 1930s and the 40s. Okay, so I have to give certain things. Basically, what are the important movements, or what are the important factors which are responsible for this movement? First of all, okay. So. Okay, so first of all, we'll see the peasants' movements during 1930s. The civil disobedience movement witnessed even larger, more conscious peasant participation in national movement, and the politically surcharged atmosphere in the wake of protest against Simon Commission was further intensified due to the impact of World Depression by 1929. The peasants were getting agitated over the fall in prices of their products, while they had to pay rents, revenue, taxes, and debts at pre-depression state. And the launch of the civil disobedience movement in such atmosphere brought a very large number of peasants within the ambit of the national movement. No rent, no revenue campaign in various parts of the country were taken up the peasant leaders. Emerging leftist trends in the Congress also influenced the growing peasant movements. A new generation of radical leadership emerged from among the Congress left wing and the communist who from now onwards could closely attach to the peasant movements all over the country, like the Sajanand, one of the president of All India Kisan Sabha, N.G. Ranga, secretary of All India Kisan Sabha, Sohan Singh, Josh, and Indula Legnik, and Jay Prakash Narayan, Mohanlal Gautam, Kamal Sarkar, Ahmad Din, and many others become prominent in the mobilization of peasantry. Okay, so the powerful peasant movements developed in UP against the eviction, announcement of rent and forced labor in early 1930s, and Gandhi advised the peasants to pay parts of the rent and send their grievances to the local Congress officers. The peasants interpreted the Gandhian message variously in their own ways, and in many cases, all payments of the landlords were stopped. Okay, so local leaders resorted to militant actions against the landlords in the name of the Congress, and and in 1931, the Congress leadership authorized non-payment of rent in some UP districts. In 1936, the UP Congress leaders supported the call of the abolition of the landlordism. In the other parts of the country also, powerful peasant movements arose. In Bengal, Bankim Mukherjee led the peasants of Burdwan against the canal tax. In Orissa, strong peasant movements developed both in British India and princely states. And in Punjab, very powerful and organized peasant movement emerged on various issues related to revenue, land settlement, and illegal levies. And in addition, the defense against the colonialism by manufacturing salt on a large scale was also undertaken. A boycott against the foreign goods and liquor was carried as on its own. It was done in previous campaigns also. The massive repression by the colonial state against the Congress leaders and the peasantry led to the decline in the participation in many areas. Okay, so at the same time, smaller peasantry resorted to no rent movement, and in the various places also, they peasants from the tribal areas who were campaign against the forest laws also. Okay, so these movements tended to take radical turn, which the Congress wanted to avoid in such for a broader unity among the Indian of all classes. Okay, so however, much unity was not easy to achieve as landlords and prop up this colonial government pressurized the peasants to give in their illegal tax, also illegal tax exactions. And in Bihar, the Swami Sajanand, which started the movement to protect the occupancy rights of the tenants and formed Bihar Provincial Kisan Sabha in 1929. In the early 1930s, the Kisan Sabha, which was under the influence of the socialists, took up the radical demands and organized a broad front of the peasantry. In Andhra, you are well known that N.G. Ranga also mobilized the peasantry and also formed the Kisan Sabha. And the Kisan Sabha movement spread to other regions of the country. Also, it raised the demand for the abolition of the Jamindari. In 1936, at the Lucknow session of the Congress, All India Kisan Sabha was formed with Sajananda as its first president, and the it later issued a Kisan manifesto which demanded abolition of the Jamindari and occupancy rights for all tenants. Under pressure from its socialist members and leaders, the Congress adopted an agrarian program in December 1936, and the broad base created the Congress by Kisan Sabha's mobilization the peasant led to its massive victory in the elections of 1937. Okay, so the formation of the Congress ministries in several provinces in 1937 charged the peasants and their leaders with new energy and raised their expectations. The Congress ministries undertook certain measures to reduce the debt burdens by fixing interest rates in all provinces ruled by it. Enhancements of rents were checked. Many cultivators were given the status of occupancy rights in UP. In Bihar, Bucks lands were partly restored to the tenants. Okay, so in Maharashtra, the Koti tenants of landholders were given some rights, and the grave fees on the forest lands were abolished. Okay, so the Kisan Sabhas had initially aimed to create a mutual understanding between the peasants and the landlords. However, owing to the oppressive attitude of the landlords, the Kisan Sabhas were forced to adopt militant posture. Okay, so but they kept spreading the nationalist ideology among the peasants in support of the Congress political program. But the right-wing leaders in the Congress did not want the hegemony of the left and also endeavored to check the peasant militancy. On the other hand, the peasants were expecting that Congress ministries would meet their demands. Okay, so the landlords felt certain threatened and appealed to the provincial government. Ultimately, the muzzlemen of the landlords and the state police suppressed the movement. The Bihar Congress distanced itself from the Kisan Sabha and its militancy. Okay, so in some other provinces, also the conservative stance of the Congress ministries was become clear, and also radical peasant demands were sought to be checked. The interests of the landlords were protected, and activities of Kisan Sabha was curtailed. Okay, so and when you see in the nationalism and peasantry during the 1940s, the Quit India movement began under the condition of leadership, which is the vacuum which is prevailed at that time, and almost entire top leadership of the Congress was arrested, and even other leaders were forced to this underground, and local leaders sprang up who spurred the peasants to attack the government property, such as police stations, treasuries, buildings, government buildings, railway stations, post office, and such other telegraph lines likewise. Okay, so Europeans were attacked and sometimes killed in public, and all sections of peasants cutting across caste lines, and even many landlords supported the movement, believing that the British rule was at an end. Okay, so the peasants and agricultural workers participated in destroying the symbols of colonial authority in villages and established their own Raj in Bihar, UP, and Andhra region, Orissa, Bengal, Maharashtra, in Gujarat, and several parts of the other regions of the country. The peasants rose along with the workers, middle class against the colonial rule. And the student volunteers played an important role while mobilizing the peasants at their respective regions also. Okay, so later in the 1940s, some of the peasant movements became very militant and radical, and communist-led Bengal Kisan Sabha prepared the ground for the widespread Tebaga movement in 1946, which continued for about a year before being suppressed by the government and landlords. In Hyderabad, a princely state, a long protracted peasant rebellion against the landlords, and the Nizam was organized by the communists. And the Telangana movement, as it was called, began in mid-1946, and it covered about 3,000 villages and population about 30 lakhs. All classes of peasants participated in it, won many success before it was put down by the Indian Army. The movement was formally withdrawn in the October 1951. Okay, so in the and I will give you about certain detailed things regarding this Telangana and Tebaga movement. And before going to that, I have to share my screen first of all, and then I will show you the things. Students, are you getting my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first of all, I will give you about the Telangana movement, and then I'll move to the Tebaga movement. And you are well aware that the Telangana movement, which taken place in between 1946 and 51, very serious mood. Okay, so the Telangana movement, which is for Andhra, Telugu speaking region of this Hyderabad state, was not Telugu speaking, like Telangana region of this Hyderabad state, and was fought against the feudal oppression of the rulers of local landowners, and the agrarian social structure of Hyderabad emerged to be very oppressive in 1920s, and thereafter the process of the subjugation in the land holding and the insecurity of the tenants and the poor peasants in rural Telangana's political economy. The Jagirdaris, the Deshmukh, locally known as the Dora, played a dominant role, and they were the intermediary landowners with higher titles and titles come money lenders, come village officials, and were mostly from the upper caste or influential Muslim community background. Okay, so because of their privileged economic and political status, they would easily subject the poor peasantry to extra economic coercion through the Vetti system. And at the bottom of the agrarian hierarchy were untouchable castes and tribal groups such as the Kondareddis, Koyas, Chenchus, Lambadi, Banjaras, many certain other communities you'll see in the region of that area. Okay, so the lower strata of the agrarian hierarchy had subhuman level of existence. The Harijans and tribals were the worst sufferers under this system. And besides the unbridled feudal exploitation, the Muslim ruler also maintained the utter isolation of the vast masses of his Hindu subjects. The Indian National Congress, Andhra Janasangam, and Andhra Mahasabha raised the issue of poor condition of the peasantry of Telangana since late 1920s. Several resolutions were passed against the Jagirdari and the Vetti system by the Andhra Mahila Sabha. Under the auspices of the Andhra Mahila Sabha, the Jagir Raitu Sangam was formed in 1940 to bring pressure upon the government to solve the problems of Jagir peasant working under the Jagirdars. And significantly, the Andhra Communist Party was established in 1934. After the ban on the communist was lifted in 1942, they captured the leadership of Andhra Mahasabha. They raised the issues of abolition of Vetti, prevention of rack renting and evictions of tenants, reduction of taxes, revenues and rents, and confirmation of the occupancy, patta, rights of the cultivating tenants, and so on. All these processes of mobilization of the peasantry increased tensions in the rural areas of Telangana, and which ultimately culminated into the political consciousness of the peasants, and gradually there was new awakening taken place. Okay, so it was such forced labor and illegal exactions and against the eviction of the poor tenants that the peasantry of the Telangana region of Hyderabad state waged innumerable struggles. The beginning of the Telangana armed struggle were against the atrocities of Vishnu Ramchandra Reddy, the Deshmukh in the Janagam Tahsil of Nalgonda district. In 1946, when his Gundas attacked and murdered Doddi Kamaraya, the local Andhra Mahasabha worker in the Kadavendi village on July 4th. Okay, so this incident intensified the struggle between the landlords openly supported by the Nizam's government and the poor peasantry organized by Communist Party of India in the disguise of Andhra Mahasabha. This movement took a new turn with the attaining independence in 1947 and subsequent refusal of the Nizam to join the Indian Union. The Communist Party of India openly called for a guerrilla struggle against the Rajakars, that is the state paramilitary wing, and the government forces by forming village defense committees and providing arms against arms training to the Dalams, and the administrative machinery of the Nizam came to be standstill in the nearly 4,000 villages. In its place were established Gram Rajas, and Vetti was abolished. In some 1.2 million acres of land was redistributed very quickly, and unpaid debts were cancelled. Tenants were given full tenancy rights. Taddy toppers got back rights over the trees, and untouchability was abolished, and new social awareness became visible. Armed women defended themselves against the Rajakars. Okay, so with the Nizam refusing to merge with the independent Indian Union, Indian government initiated army action against the Nizam. The subsequently against the Communist Party of India in September 1948. So the Communist Party of India adopted the path of protracted struggle. They planned for liberated area and intensified their struggle. However, it was very difficult for the communist cadres in Telangana to withstand the Indian army. Several hundreds peasant rebels were killed. Many died for lack of the shelter and support. Within the Nizam, already overthrown by the Indian army, the logic of the movement was rethought by the leaders and common peasantry of Telangana. In 1951, in 1951, this movement was, which is finally which discontinued. Okay, so and this movement which brought about where such fighting skills and which they can the peasants also challenge such exactions which followed by these such Muslim leader Nizam at that time. Okay, so when we see the achievements of the Telangana movement in the villages controlled by guerrillas, Vetti and forced labor disappeared, and cultural wages were raised, illegal seized lands were restored, steps were taken to fix ceilings and redistributed lands, and measures were taken to improve irrigation and fight cholera. An improvement in the condition of women was witnessed. The autocratic feudal regime of India's biggest princely state was shaken up, clearing the way of the formation of Andhra Pradesh on linguistic basis, and realizing another of the national movement in this region. Okay, so when you see the movement, impact of the movement, the peasant movements created an atmosphere for more post-independence agrarian reforms. For instance, abolition of the Jamindari, they eroded the power of the landed class, thus adding to the transformation of the agrarian structure. These movements were based on the ideology of regionalism in every way and nationalism in some way. Okay, so the nature of this movement was similar in diverse areas, and finally we can say that the movement may be failed due to such factors. There was lack of an adequate understanding of colonialism, and 19th century peasants did not possess a new ideology, a social, economic, and political program. These struggles, however, militant occurred within the framework of the old societal order, lacking a positive conception of the alternative society. Likewise, okay. So and before that, after this Telangana movement, there are several things happened, and many changes also taken place, where Nizam was dethroned, and the whole Telangana region, the whole Hyderabad state were merged into the Indian Union. Okay, so and another important movement which taken place in the 1940s was Tebaga movement, which taken place in Bengal, which was started as a contemporary of Telangana movement at that time. Okay, so and the Tebaga movement, which is also another important movement which started in the Indian history, which is the Tebaga movement was manifested in the undivided Bengal in the mid 1940s, centering around demand of Tebaga 2/3 shares by sharecroppers of their produce of themselves, instead of one of traditional given to them by the Jotedars, a class of intermediary landowners. This movement grew against the backdrop of the flourishing interest of the intermediary class of landowners on the one hand, and that of the deterioration of the economic status of the agricultural laborers, sharecroppers, and poor peasants on the other hand. Okay, so the deteriorating economic conditions of the lowest strata was reflected in the rapid expansion in the number of sharecroppers and agricultural laborers in Bengal agrarian society of at the time. And a report of the Land Revenue Commission in 1940 observed that 8 lakhs 54 8 lakhs 54,000 8 crores 54 lakhs 7,004 inquired acres all over the Bengal province, undivided with Bengal 5 crores 92,000 sorry 5 lakhs 92,335 acres were transferred. Okay, so and of which 31.7% of the turned over Barga sharecropping and 24.6% to the under tenants. Okay, so the traders, money lenders, and intermediary landowners exploited to the hilt of the poverty of the poor peasants and lent him money at atrocious rates of interest. When the poor peasant was unable to repay the debt, lost their land to the creditor, he was resettled on the same land on condition that he handed over half of the produce to the creditor. So the peasants who are not settled on it as a sharecroppers became agricultural laborers, and the Land Revenue Commission pointed out in 1940 that agricultural laborers constituted 22.5% of the total number of families of Bengal. Okay, so the exploitive intermediary systems of land tenure, which was introduced through the permanent settlement, had furthered the process of downward mobilization of the peasantry of Bengal. The emerging patterns of the exploitation and social oppression, impoverishment of the peasantry got institutionalized during the British rule. Okay, so and the Bengal Kisan Sabha, as a provincial branch of All India Kisan Sabha, was formed in 1936. The Krishak Praja Party, which you are aware that won the provincial election with the promise to abolish the intermediary system of the land ownership. In alliance with the Congress, it formed with the first popular ministry in Bengal and subsequently appointed the Land Revenue Commission in 1938 to look into the agrarian issues. This commission recommended in 1940 that all Bargadars should be treated as tenants and that the share of the crops legally recoverable from them should be 1/3 instead of half. Okay, so however, as the Kisan Praja Party did a old face on agrarian problems of the government, showed no urgency for implementing the recommendation of the Land Revenue Commission, the All India Kisan Sabha began to radicalize its agrarian program. Okay, so in November 1946, Bengal Kisan Sabha passed the resolution in Kolkata for Tebaga 2/3 share of the produce crops for the sharecroppers and Jangal Janintar land to the tiller. Okay, so the slogan has raised. Okay, so North Bengal, especially Dajabur district, became the center of Bengal Kisan Sabha activism because of the high intensity of the sharecropping system of the land cultivation there. The poor peasantry of the Kanpur village, who are mostly from the scheduled caste, okay, so the scheduled tribes and the ex tribes responded spontaneously to this movement. When the movement escalated into mass action, the sharecroppers began to harvest paddy, carry it to their own kalan courtyard under the instructions of the local leaders. In surcharged situation of the heightening the tension that local these police, others which entered the village and arrested few sharecroppers, and this news spread like wildfire all over the village, and all alarm was raised by the beating of drums, blowing conch shells, and beating gangs of utensils by the peasant women. The village and its environs reverberated to the sounds of the drums. Okay, tin jars, gongs, and conch shells. A vast mass of poor peasants and sharecroppers from both Kanpur and its neighboring villages, armed with the bows and arrows, lathis and axes, surged on the police. They demanded the release of their sharecroppers, but the police were adamant and ended up firing 119 rounds, injuring hundreds and killing 22 sharecroppers, including 2 women. Okay, so the episode Kanpur triggered of the Tebaga movement very quickly in the most part of Bengal. Poor peasants, ignoring their these conventional ties with the landowners, declined to share half of their produce with the landowners. Protest, firing, killing became part of the agrarian society in 1946. Okay, so however, the colonial rulers used all possible repressive measures to crush this movement by introducing the reign of terror in the rural areas of the Bengal. Okay, so and this is about my lecture, and I have to close my lecture today and with some some points. And during 1940s, the Congress accepted the idea of Jamindari abolition on the larger scale, and in its election manifesto of 1946, it proposed that landlordism would be abolished after paying a equitable compensation to the landlords. The Jamindari Abolition Acts, in fact, provided generous compensation to the landlords and also allowed them enough time to dispose of their lands in the ways they desired. It is true that substantial tenants and rich peasants also benefited from abolition of landlordism, but the poor peasants and agricultural workers did not gain much from the measures. Okay, so this is about my lecture. This is about my final lecture for you also, because this is the last class for the entire MA program. Okay, so dear students, this is end of my class. Regarding my class, you have any queries or any doubts, you can ask me now. Students, are you?
No,
are
sir.
you okay? No doubt.
Okay.
Right?
No, sir.
So, okay, thank you very much, and all the best for your best future, and you can go through well your syllabus and write your exams well. Okay.
Sir?
Okay, all the best for your bright future. Thank you.
Sir?
Are you listening? Venkatama?
Sir, nene sir.
Okay, so right, all the best, and మంచిగా చదువుకోండి. అండ్ ఎగ్జామ్స్ మంచిగా రాయండి. ఫ్యూచర్లో అన్ని ఎగ్జామ్స్ కంటే ఏదైతే మీ గోల్ ఉందో దాన్ని రీచ్ అయ్యే ప్రయత్నం చేయండి. ఓకే,
సార్ థర్డ్ సెమ్ కి సంబంధించిన 2 ఎగ్జామ్స్ మన కాలేజ్ లోనే రాయాలా సార్?
మీకు లాస్ట్ టైం ఎక్కడ సెంటర్ పడితే అక్కడ రాయాల్సి ఉంటుంది.
అక్కడే
అంతే అంతే. ఎస్.
ఓకే
Okay.
సార్.
Yeah, thank you. Ending my class now. Thank you very much.